Chairman, President, Commissioners, our next presentation has to do with the passenger demand study for air service development. And I ask Mr. Liston Sage to give today's presentation on this study.
Good morning, Chairman, President, Commissioners. Today I'm going to provide you a presentation, which is an executive summary of the passenger demand analysis and leakage study that was performed by our air service consultant, Interbusiness. Like I said, we tasked Interbusiness with performing this passenger demand analysis of the Jackson area in order to understand the travel trends of our local community. The study was conducted within the airport catchment area, or the geographical area that surrounds the airport that's within an hour and a half drive. That includes a population of 951,200 people. That catchment area is a geographical area that, like I said, is an hour and a half drive away, but we also use online travel agency data, which is websites like Priceline or Expedia. And whenever you go online and you buy the ticket, you use your debit or credit card, and that debit or credit card is tied to a zip code. So we also use the zip code that's associated with that debit or credit card to create that catchment area, as well as those geographical boundaries. On average, our airport has 27 daily departures to 6 nonstop destinations, and we are currently capturing 91% of the people within our catchment area. 51% of that catchment area is composed of the Madison, Jackson, and cities of Brandon. The Jackson market generates 1.1 million passengers annually, and of that 1.1 million, in 2015, 103,100 used alternate airports. 20% of our passengers are traveling to the Northeast United States, and a large portion of that is our DC flight, but also New York, as I'll show you later in the presentation. The capture rate for this airport, or the percent of people within our catchment area using this airport, is at its lowest during March, which is attributed to group travel, when large groups such as maybe people going on mission trips or college groups going down to the beach in Cancun or whatever, traveling groups, so they look for the best rate. We talked about our airport catchment area. You can see the geographical boundary of our catchment area. And these are, you can see some of the highlighted passenger airports there that surround us, as well as Memphis and New Orleans to our south. That's not shown on this map. In 2015, our average ticket price was hovering around $250. Since 2009, our total passenger count has decreased 14%, which is largely attributed to Southwest Airlines' departure. And I'll remind you that Southwest pulled their first daily flight from Jackson in 2009, and then they pulled one flight. They started with 9 in 2000. Whenever they came on board, they had 9 daily departures. In 2009, they pulled the first one, and then in 2014, when they ultimately departed with serving our market, they were down to 4. So that's how we got down to 14% since 2009. Here you can see the average fare compared to Memphis, Atlanta, and New Orleans, to our top 10 cities that we serve. You can see that we're about 21% above Atlanta. I'm looking at the ratio on the right side. So we're 21% above Atlanta on average, 10% above Memphis, and 35% above New Orleans. And then the others would be other competitor airports in our market. And you can see that average ticket price to those certain cities there and what the average was in 2015. Here we look at our load factor. Our load factor has increased over time, and we're at 82% and in line with the industry average. Our load factor is the percent of seats that are being filled on average on aircraft that operate here at this airport. So 82% of seats are being filled on aircraft that are departing our airport. You can see the load factor for each individual market that we serve by airline. Our top market is the Charlotte market served by American. And down at the bottom, you can see the lowest load factor we have is the Chicago flight served by United. And then your average was out to 8. Yes, sir.
Can I take your questions?
Yes, I'll take questions. Please stop me at any point if you have a question.
How do we compare on the national average with the load factor?
You can see the green line is the industry average on the load factor. So 81, 82% is the industry average, and we are right at the industry average. This pie chart shows our capture rate, which is 91%, but it also shows the amount of traffic that's being leaked, or if passengers are using alternate airports. You can see New Orleans is getting 5% of our leaked traffic. Memphis is getting 2% of our leaked traffic, and then 3% is going to all others like Golden Triangle or Gulfport, Biloxi, or Monroe, smaller airports like that. This shows the capture rate by markets that we serve. So this is a little bit different than load factor. This is the number of people that are inside of our catchment area that we are capturing going on these flights. So it's different than load factor, because load factor is the capacity of the aircraft. This is the number of people inside of our catchment area flying to these markets. So you can see Washington, for instance, we're getting 96% of people in our catchment area that are going to Washington. So that means that 4% are using other airports besides ours to go to that location. And you can see our capture rate there is the red line is 91%. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Does this study factor in, say for instance, someone wants to choose another airport, but
Sure.
does it factor in their parking at the other place, the fuel it takes to get there, and other incidental costs?
This study doesn't so much look at the cost rather than the average ticket price. I can ask our consultant to add that piece to the study if you guys would like to see that. I think that might be good for us to look at parking. I don't know if we could so much look at, we could maybe get like an average travel and hotel, nights.
Well, as we go out and try to encourage
Sure.
folks to use our airport, we want
Right.
to make sure we inform them that there are other costs associated. You might get a lower ticket price, but you got fuel costs, so your time, etc.
Sure, we'll see about getting you guys that information.
And the other question that you said that basically you glean a lot of this information from zip codes.
Yes, sir.
What about if there's no way that, are we losing other sources of financing or other than the credit cards?
Most people these days are going online.
Okay.
You don't have too many people that are driving to the airport and buying a ticket. You do have that, so there is just a very small margin of error there. Another place where we're not actually able to get information from is if someone goes to delta.com and purchases a ticket. Because the information that we're receiving is from these online travel agencies. They sell this information to companies. The company that they use is Airline Reporting Corp, and they buy this information, and that's how we analyze it. But the vast majority of people are using these online travel agencies to book their tickets.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Did we compare the cost for other airports that are more comparable to Jackson? New Orleans is a hub. Memphis once was a hub. Do we have comparables to?
Well, if you see in the section where I'm assuming you're talking about the ticket price.
Ticket prices.
If you see the column that says others, they averaged in the others, airports like Golden Triangle and Gulfport, Biloxi, so they're included in there as an average, but they're not broken out separately as Atlanta, Memphis, and New Orleans, since Memphis and New Orleans are our major competitors and where we have the most leakage to.
Well, I guess I'm asking, I get you in terms of Hattiesburg coast, but
Sure.
I don't see them really as being comparable to Jackson, Mega Wireless International. Who do we use as comparables or comparable airports to
Sure.
Jackson, Mississippi?
Well, we were using Pensacola, Mobile,
Okay.
Birmingham. I cannot remember the one that was in North Carolina. It was Lee. We are using ones that are comparable to our size to answer your
That's what I'm
question.
getting to.
But those are the three that I can remember off the top of my head.
And then when we compare those airports to Jackson in terms of ticket prices, you're saying that we'll find that in this report?
Well, for ticket prices, we did just the top three.
Okay.
So these are the top three airports that our passengers are actually using versus us. So we wanted to look at their ticket prices to say, at what percentage are they going to an alternate airport, such as New Orleans or Memphis, a major hub, because then there's more direct flight options at those airports than there will be if you go to Golden Triangle, you're still going to go to Atlanta before you go to your final destination.
Okay.
And likewise for Gulfport, Biloxi, and airports like that. You can see here, this is the top leak markets to New Orleans and Memphis, respectively. You can see that the top leak market in New Orleans is New York. And Denver's also up on that list also. You can see via Memphis, people are mainly going to Chicago and Denver. So Denver pops up on the list twice. And so we'll use this information to then, you can see that New Orleans is getting a lot more of our leaked passengers than Memphis is. So we know that 52,433 people used the New Orleans airport to get to their destination versus us in 2015. So we know there's a substantial number of people that we could pick up, but we need to be smart about which route we actually use. So when we look at a side-by-side comparison, we can see New York and Denver are both really high on that list.
So, Liston, with
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
seeing that information, would that be factored into when we're looking at air service coming to?
Absolutely. And in this next slide, I was going to show you, this is the top 20 passenger markets that people using our airport are flying to. And then we can see that Washington, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, top four, we already serve those markets via direct flights. But number 5, New York, people are going to New York using our airport. But we also know that we're leaking, that's a large leak market to New Orleans, from New Orleans, Chicago, Los Angeles, Charlotte. But what we also have in this slide is you see the capture rate for these markets. So we knew the capture rate for the markets that we're already serving, the 6 cities that we serve directly. But then we can see the capture rate for New York in our catchment area, which is 86%. So we know that 14% of the people flying to New York in our catchment area are using alternate airports. So we also look at that number to say, okay, the lower the capture rate is, then we know we're leaking that amount of people. So you go down the list, the lowest capture rate, again, we saw is Denver. So 75% of people in our catchment area are using our airport. That's 25% of people are using alternate airports. So New York and Denver, again, pop up on the list as markets that we potentially have the opportunity to serve via direct route. So looking at the numbers, just one way doesn't always give you a good picture of a potential market. So there's a couple of different variables that go into it. And you also, once you get down the line, we also have to look at if United is flying to Houston and then those people are going on to Denver via United from Houston, then would United want to add a direct flight from Jackson to Denver since they're already getting those people. So maybe United doesn't, but maybe American does because they're not getting that 25%. So there's a number of variables that go into it. You can see on this map, this is the markets that we serve via this airport. If you add all those up, it's 100%. Our top region that we serve is the Northeast. And like I said, that's largely attributed to our DC flight, which is one of our best flights, and also the high demand for New York. You can see that Florida on this map is off by itself. So 8% of our total passengers are flying to Florida. So there's also a high demand for obviously Orlando is a big destination there since you have the top 2 theme parks in the country based there. So that's also another opportunity for us. So in summary, what we did is we identified the alternate airports that we're leaking to and what those numbers are, what the routes are, how many passengers we could potentially pick up if we got a new route to a certain market. We identified those potential new markets because of that. We looked at our current incumbent carriers, American, United, Delta, what their performance is in their markets that they're serving now. So we know which ones are not performing at the average line and which ones we probably ought to put a little bit of focus on helping them do better, and which ones are performing extremely well. And maybe we can say, hey, maybe you guys would want to add another flight to DC or Dallas if you're performing that well. The next steps in our approach to get new service is to develop an incentive plan. We've already asked our air service consultant to recommend a plan to us, and he will use those comparable airports like we talked about to kind of mirror what they're doing, give us an idea. So they'll recommend something, we'll look at it, we'll say, well, we do or don't like this, present it to you guys, have the opportunity to tweak it, and then we'll have that out on the streets, say anybody who's going to add any new service, this is what you get. So, and that's something that carriers are really going to look at because they get it on both sides. So if they're at a Denver flight, Denver has an incentive plan on their side, and they're going to have an incentive plan on this side. They may be operating for the first 3-6 months at a minimum. So that would be a great opportunity for them to make some money because we ultimately know their goal is to make money, just like that. So after we do that, we're analyzing the business community right now through a survey that we've sent out. Once we get that back, we'll see what demand is out there for our businesses that are in the local area, the central Mississippi area. And we'll also use that information to back our play when we're speaking with the airlines. To say, we know that there's an opportunity for you guys because we see the leakage, we see the demand through the study. But we also know that our businesses are asking for a route to New York or Denver or wherever it is. So that'll also be a good piece of evidence whenever we make our case to them. So after we get everything in line, that's when we'll actually approach the carriers. And one of the point that we'll probably do that is in June is the first time that we'll really make a presentation to them. June is the National ACI Jumpstart Conference where all the airlines are there. And it's a perfect opportunity to sit down and meet with them. They have one-on-one meetings with all the airlines. Our consultant will be there to also present with us. Does anybody have any questions?
Talk a little bit about that business survey that's ongoing.
Yes,
when
ma'am.
did we start it and when will it end so that we will be ready
Sure.
for June?
Well, we started it basically a week and a half ago. We were using a partner here locally, going through the Chambers of Commerce in the metro area to help us push the survey out to their members because they have such a large database of those businesses already. They could just email it out. It was a link. You just click on the link online. It's about 17 to 20 multiple choice questions, a few little fill-in options. And so we pushed that out about a week and a half ago. We sent reminders out this week. And we should wrap that up probably within a week, another week and a half, and then get those results.
2 questions.
Yes, sir.
One tied to your questionnaire that you sent out to them, and then the second question is related to Atlanta. On the Atlanta, if you go to your page that shows for the
This one?
right, on Atlanta, I believe that's artificially low, simply because Delta has a large percentage of frequent flyers.
Sure.
And if you ever fly on Delta, they do down medallion,
Yeah,
low
they're
medallion.
doing a loyalty
And you just
program.
see them all going in. All of us book straight through
Sure.
Delta. And you just look at the numbers, so Delta probably has a lot higher capture rate
Sure.
right there. So we probably capture more of those. So my next question would be, I know United and Delta have that same deal.
Right.
I don't know if you capture their information direct. I'm assuming if they go to united.com, you
Right.
might not. So my question would be, on your survey that you sent out, is one of your questions, are you a member of a frequent flyer program? If so, which one, Delta, United, American? Because that would give you an idea of maybe some other
Sure.
areas where maybe we are capturing people and we just don't know. Just
I believe that is a question.
Is a question, okay.
I believe so. I'll double check just to make
Okay.
sure. Did you have another question?
no.
Okay.
They were tired.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I believe I saw this.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in response to his question also, there's got to be a percentage of error that we're not seeing in your presentation, because if you're not including like the airlines that are selling, because I buy from airlines, I don't go
Sure.
to travel, so I don't know.
Right.
So
yes.
what is it? Do you have that? Do you have that
They
number?
do not sell that information. That information, the information that we get comes from the online travel agencies, and they sell that information to third-party vendors.
I understand that, but my question is, what is the percentage of error in your presentation because of that factor?
I'm not sure. I can find out.
Okay, that's what I need to know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
To the extent that the numbers seem to suggest that direct flights to certain destinations is advisable based on the leakage, if you will.
Sure.
Is there some type of program collaboration you plan to do with the destination airport so that there's a joint effort to convince the airline that maybe we ought to add a direct flight?
I'm not sure the destination airports.
So let me help you just a little bit with
Okay.
that, Liston. So, yes, we identify destination airports that we look like we want to go to. We would certainly reach out to those airports and work jointly with them, bring presentations to the airlines to both our cases. Would absolutely do that.
Sure.
Fellow commissioners, any other questions?
Just comment, very appreciative of the presentation. It was a lot of good information, and that's the type we need to continue to press forward.
Really informative. That was a great job.
And if y'all have any questions, feel free,
Yeah.
let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just kind of wrap this up and say that after the survey is complete, we have survey results. Probably next month, we'll be back before you to provide you with the results of the survey.
Good job.
Good job, Mr. Sage. Commissioners, the next item up is going to be our strategic plan. And Chad is in the process of passing out draft copies of that plan. I'm stressing these are draft at this point because it's not the final form. As soon as he gets done doing that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the presentation.